Let's take another look at the energy of the conclave and a closer look at Cardinal Tagle. And what's Gaza's future and Netanyahu? And what was up with the picture of the felon as the Pope? And are the felon and his administration actively trying to be blasphemers? Let's look into all that. Welcome to Scrying Out Loud. My name is Trevor. First off, a huge thank you to all the subscribers. Thank you to everybody who likes, watches, comments on the videos. Um, a special thank you to Lisa, who's been a follower of the channel from the beginning, who continues to amaze me with sending me suggestions for videos and other things. And if you've given money to the channel through the super thanks, buy me a coffee, Venmo, a huge, huge thank you. So the conclave should start either tomorrow or Tuesday, is my understanding. My intuition was telling me that Cardinal Tagle from the Philippines or of Filipino descent seems to be the person that comes out as Pope, but let's take a look at that. Let's take another look at what's going on in Gaza. I think it's worth remembering that there are atrocities going on in the world. And let's take a look at Netanyahu and how he fits into how things are going to develop there. And then if you missed it, the felon truthed or tweeted or whatever you want to call it, a picture of him as Pope, which did not get a very warm reception from uh, Catholics, which is good. But are they actively trying to like be anti-Christian, anti-Catholic? It seems like they don't follow any of the norms. So why are Christians attracted to them? Let's look into that as well. Okay, so the energy of the conclave. So I think we'll use the before tarot and then we'll use the after tarot to look at Cardinal Tagle. Okay, what do we need to know about the energy of the conclave? When we looked at this the last time, it felt like it was all going to be focused on how the church can maintain its current level of membership or grow. Do we need to know about the energy of... I need to see the Ace of Pentacles in the Scrying Bowl. I think this is, a chance for a new financial beginning. Whether that means needing to attract more members or just the way that the church is going to allocate resources, we'll have to see. I don't think the church is hurting for money by any stretch of the imagination. What do we need to know about the... Let's see the Five of Cups, which is about loss, but I think that makes sense. I think something like 80% of the cardinals that are voting will be appointed by Pope Francis. Yeah, so it's a solemn occasion that's going to lead to victory of some sort, right? So this is the Six of Wands, but it's the before tarot. So this is before the victory happens. But they all know that one of them most likely is going to emerge as the new pope. It is possible, my understanding is it's possible that they could vote for somebody outside of the voting members. Looks like once it gets started, it's going to be pretty quick. Like they're ready to go off and make their points on who they think should be the next pope. I think there's going to be disagreement in the beginning, but I think the points will be well received. They will be concerned about things like Russia and Ukraine and Israel, Gaza, what's going on in Africa. all the kind of hot spots around the world where there's a lot of suffering. We get the Empress card in the upper right. That's certainly going to be first and foremost. It's going to be a solemn occasion for a lot of people. I think whoever is going to be selected is going to have to defend themselves in some ways, but they're going to do this in a very humble way. I think that's the imagery there with the Seven of Wands. Yeah, here's what I've seen in the scramble. At the center of the readings, the Five of Cups, which is about loss. That makes sense. Pope Francis is gone. And that's why they're there. So, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to have, this imagery in the before tarot is kind of interesting. The cat tips over one of the cups, right? So I think there'll be some, lots of exchanging of stories of their interactions with Pope Francis, which is why I think the faction of cardinals appointed by Pope Francis might emerge as the victors. It'll be a battle, but a battle of ideas, not a physical battle at all. Just a lot of going back and forth on what they think is best for the forward progress of the church. There are going to be some people that want to regress and go back to traditional doctrine. There are going to be some people that want to continue to expand doctrine, be more amenable to treatment of women, and particularly when it comes to divorce and members of women being higher ranking members inside the church. Ultimately, somebody's going to be selected. And I fear they're going to be, fear is not the right word. I feel they're going to be selected because they're going to be seen as the best candidate to keep the church growing, or at least not declining in the near future. With the Four of Pentacles, something that can bring about stability. There are going to be a lot of sleepless nights and a lot of anxiety during the conclave. I'm not sure how long it'll take. My intuition was like between 3 and 5 days. And we get the Queen of Swords. Ultimately, it's going to be a very logical decision. It won't be based on emotions. It'll be based on what's best for the church in terms of its ability to grow, to expand. So they're going there humbly, knowing that one of them is going to become Pope, while sharing stories about Pope Francis and other popes and bishops and cardinals that have passed in the last few years. But ultimately, they emerge thinking logically about what needs to be done. They're going to pick somebody who can bring stability to the church, and particularly with around the sexual abuse scandals and also any abuse of power around money that's been going on that we maybe don't even know about. And again, I think that person's going to be close to Pope Francis. I think it's going to come from somebody who was appointed by Pope Francis. And also on top of mine are going to be the conflicts and sufferings going on in the world. It's going to be a battle of ideas. It's going to lead to people having to defend their positions, but doing it from a place of humility. There might be one or two aggressors, but I don't think that they'll have enough sway. And I think there's going to be a lot of anxiety that they get this right. It's a lot of weight to carry. And ultimately, I think the winner is going to feel isolated and alone, or whoever becomes Pope. Winner is probably not quite the correct word. And it's about families and celebrations. There's going to be some behind the scenes things going on that are maybe a little bit stealth, a little bit, you know, trickery, not in the sense that it's bad, but maybe to eliminate one of the candidates early on, there might be a faction going against them, something along those lines. And then it's about the inheritance of Pope Francis and continuing on that journey with the Ten of Pentacles. So I've always seen Cardinal Tagle becoming Pope, but I could be right, I could be wrong. I'm right more than I'm wrong. That's why I do this. So let's use the after tarot now to look at Cardinal Tagle. So what do we need to know about Cardinal Tagle? Of course, you never know how somebody is going to be as Pope until they're Pope. There was a lot of worry when Benedict became Pope because of his childhood, which, founded or unfounded. We need to know about Cardinal Tagle. I really think he's the one. I see a picture of a ring in the water. I always felt like it would be him or uh, the cardinal from Italy who was working closely with Pope Francis. Like it's, we need to know about Cardinal. There's a lot of support for him. Lots of circles of support and celebration around his candidacy. Yes, I know he said he doesn't want to be Pope. So have about 80% of the cardinals in the conclave. So, I mean, it's kind of like people running for US president, right? They always say, oh, I'm not really running for president. And then they run for president. So, does he want to be Pope? I mean, perhaps he doesn't. Will he take it if it's offered to him? Yes, because he will see that as serving a higher purpose. He's got some history in the environment around where he can relate to some hardships. I don't know exactly his past, and I don't know what this is about, but it's been repaired. And I think he can bring some powerful stories to the conclave. And we get a surprising new beginning where the heart again is the imagery. Here, the heart being whole, and then the dove flying away. We get the Four of Pentacles with the image of death behind it. So this is about stability. I think they are worried about some maybe financial scandal being exposed. I'm not sure. There's something about money. At the center of the reading, we get again circles of support, but this time around money. The Three of Pentacles. It's a lot of threes. And we get giving and receiving. I feel like there might be some negotiations, and he might be willing to promise certain things in exchange for votes. Nothing like super untoward or anything, just kind of the normal negotiating process. And here's the Five of Cups again. This is Pope Francis, whose death lays over the entire conclave, because that's why there's being a conclave. We get the Queen of Cups. Empathy is going to be a strong attribute that they're looking for. And I think that's something that Tagle has. And again, the Queen of Swords in the lower right, they're going to use logic. And I think he's logical. So lots of circles of support and celebrations for him, circles of supports around money. And he's viewed as very logical by the other members of the conclave. He's viewed as being very similar to Pope Francis, which is why he has some circles of support. And I think we will see a new beginning for him of sorts. I think he's going to become Pope. That's what I saw back in December before Pope Francis had even passed. And it's because he can share some stories of hurt and recovery. He has the ability to empathize. He'll bring about stability through chaotic times. I think that's what the death representation is the chaos of the world at this moment. And I think he's willing to put in the negotiations necessary with the Six of Pentacles to get votes, even though he says he doesn't want to be Pope. We'll just have to see. Bombshells and surprises. I don't think he ever thought he'd be considered for Pope. We get the Wheel of Fortune. Is it turning in his favor? Well, we get truth afterwards. So it feels pretty, the cards are pretty strong for him, as are the images that I had going all the way back to December before Pope Francis had passed. So we'll see. Okay, so what's going on with Gaza and Netanyahu? Let's start with Gaza. What do we need to know about Gaza? It seems like things have regressed a little bit. There's not, aid's not getting into the places it needs to get into. It's been out of the news, like the mainstream news, for a while, which concerns me. That's usually when bad things are happening. We need to know about Gaza. Yeah, it's not good. The scramble, I see the death card. The specter of death will be an everlasting thing for the people of Gaza for 100 years at least. These events will, there will be events commemorating the people that died and events condemning the Israeli government for their actions, particularly Netanyahu. Not everybody in the Israeli government wanted this to go to this extent. Yeah, you get the Magician. It's my card for Elon Musk. Let's see where this goes. But it's like they're needing to manifest all their things, right? The Magician manifests the pentacles, the cups, the sword, and the wand. He's able to bring those all about. And I think what this is saying is there's an absence of everything that they need. We get the greedy merchant and the environment around. People are being taken advantage of, abused. Seeds are being planted for the next generation. And I don't think that they're going to work out the way that Israel thinks they're going to. We get the Democrats and the environment around. Might see Democrats start to speak out again on this. I know there are some that already have and haven't stopped. At the center of the reading, we get the Lovers card, unlikely partnerships. We get pausing and suspension. So maybe we're going to get another pause so that we can get more humanitarian aid into Gaza, and that it's going to be able to get in a way to where it's actually given to the people and not stolen. There's just a lot of heartbreak. I mean, I think the correct emotion here from the list of 100 and some odd human emotions, I think the correct one is anguish. Just a lot of anguish. But there are circles of support around money. There's going to be a push to get more aid in there. I think we'll hear about it too. Ultimately, they get justice, but Justice is kind of like control. It's an illusion, right? We don't really have control over our lives. Justice is often hollow. You know, just think about if a family member was murdered and the person that did it was brought to justice, as we say, that doesn't really make you whole, right? So justice is an illusion in a lot of ways. So they're in desperate need of the things, but desperate needs of lots of things. We get the lovers, so there's some unlikely partnerships that are going to bring about justice. This could be a lot of different things. Could be the International Criminal Court. It could be Lebanon and Jordan and other countries of the Arab states stepping up and demanding that things be put right. There's a lot of anguish. That's why these partnerships are coming in. And seeds are already being planted on what to do going forward. In the environment around, we get the Democrats and circles of support around money. I think, people want to get aid into Gaza, that's just being stopped. It's being stopped, one, by people stealing the aid. And so that's why it's currently paused, along with Netanyahu and his people not really caring about what's going on. But there are things behind the scenes that we can't see. This feels like it's Netanyahu nursing his victory, so to speak, but he doesn't realize that it's going to lead to his ultimate downfall. We'll take a closer look at him in just a second. So the Ten of Swords. So I do think we'll see more aid getting into Gaza soon. I sure hope that's correct. Let's pull just a few cards on Netanyahu. What do we need to know about Netanyahu? I've always felt like he ultimately disappears from the political landscape by the end of the year. What that means exactly, I'm not sure. What do we need to know about that? He's not well, both physically, but more importantly, mentally, he's not well. Like they're not able to think this through of like what's going to happen in 20 years when these kids that have witnessed these atrocities become adults and they have access to money and to power, so to speak. It's just going to be this endless cycle. He's going to be judged. He's going to be judged harshly for this period in time. Like Israel had all the sympathy after October 7th, and then around the middle of the next year, the sympathy started to switch. Now, a lot of that was the Republicans playing things against other things in the US to get college kids to support the Palestinians. He's going to be seen as somebody who sabotaged. It'll be revealed that he sabotaged a lot of deals that could have led to peace. Ultimately, I feel like he ends up confined. I know that he's been indicted for things. I'm not exactly sure how that works. And I believe his wife was found guilty of things. So fiery messages in the environment around another page. The Ten of Pentacles is at the center of the reading. His inheritance. What is he leaving Israel? Is going to come into question. And I think it will be widely agreed upon that he left Israel in a weaker spot than what he took it in as. I think also be revealed that he's been getting some foreign help. I've always said that Netanyahu and Putin are aligned somehow, but Israel and Russia will never be aligned. Like that doesn't make any sense in the geopolitical scheme of things. But there's something to some back channel communication, I feel, for entertainment purposes only, where Netanyahu's got something going on with Putin. I don't know if they're gonna like divvy up Syria or Israel's going to not do anything to Iran in exchange for getting some parts of Syria. Something along those lines is what it feels like. Uh, the guardrails need to be put up so that we don't have this abuse anymore. Here's the felon in the environment around the King of Pentacles, very influential. And we get some sort of new beginning. So there's going to be lots of judgments of Netanyahu for what he's done in Gaza. And particularly, what is he leaving the next generation? And what he's leaving the next generation is basically a new beginning because he's destroyed everything, like relations with other countries. It's not dissimilar to what the felon is doing here in the United States. The guardrails didn't hold, but they're there. What did he leave the next generation? Well, he's cornered them. He's left them in a very weak position to negotiate. They have no trust because they're seen as sabotagers. At least Netanyahu is. And these fiery messages, which are the missiles, are just going to destroy. And people are wondering, why is he doing it? And they're questioning, is this got some sort of involvement with the felon in the United States and or something else overseas? So he's going to be in a very weak position soon enough. Underneath, he's going to be isolated and alone. We're going to have reunions and celebrations. People will start to get back to normal. It's going to take a while, but he's always going to be seen as the thief, the stealer, the deceiver. And that's ultimately going to be his downfall and perhaps even lead to death. So the end of that dark cycle, the end of the dark cycle goes when he goes. That's what I'm getting. Okay. So the great felon of the United States who currently occupies the White House thought it would be amusing, apparently, to tweet truth, whatever we're calling, a picture of him as Pope. This was pretty widely condemned by Catholics. Like, he clearly didn't comprehend how it could be offensive. And he said that he even wants to be Pope, which isn't going to happen. So, what do we need to know about this, though? Is there a bigger... Is this more than just a picture, is my question. Is this more than just a picture, or is it a representation of them trying to infiltrate the church? What is this about? What is this? The Ten of Pentacles in the water. I almost feel like he might threaten the church or the churches in the United States if they don't do something that he wants. Could just be about this too. We get the card for ill health. He's sick. We know that. The Four of Swords. We get the Lover's card, some unlikely partnerships. This could have been where this image came from, and then he decided to make it public. We get the Six of Swords, which is moving away from troubled waters. Yeah, we get illusion and delusion in the environment around. This also could be substance abuse. This could be kind of a card that represents a little bit of dementia. We get passionate leadership at the center. I think this was the Catholic Church speaking out against such imagery. We get the Ace of Pentacles. It's a new beginning around his health, is what I feel. Like it's just another kind of cherry on the top of the cake saying that he's not well. We get the World card, the end of a dark cycle. This would never have been thought of years ago. Nobody would have no president of the United States would ever tweet a picture of them dressed as the Pope because it's so blasphemous, right? We get decisions and crossroads in the environment around, and then we get something coming forward, I think, about his health. So I think I get what's going on here. So he's ill. I think the church is going to be very passionate about that. And I think the church might just, like, the new pope might say something to the effect of, maybe we should pray for the felon because he's clearly in cognitive decline or something along those lines, like really calling him out. And it's the end of a cycle where, anything that was sacred is no longer sacred. It's just everything has been kind of destroyed. But again, the church is going to be able to defend itself and move things away from him. And the environment around, the church doesn't want any partnerships with him. He wants a partnership with the church. It's not going to happen. He's illusional, delusional, possibly over medicated. There's going to be choices needing to be made that lead to financial new beginnings. But I don't think the church cares if the felon's mad at them or not. Yeah, full illumination. We get the we get the Five of Cups, which is about loss. It's kind of the minor arcana death card. And we get the Five of Swords, which is the card for dementia, also being wounded in battle. I think this actually really hurts him in the eyes of the public because, I think if you look at the exit polls, he won maybe 40% of Catholics, something along those lines. Will he again? Will that support go away? I think it'll just wane. But also other support, just because it's so ridiculous. This like God image that he's portraying of himself is quite disgusting. So is Trump and his administration actively trying to be blasphemers? They actively trying to be anti-Christian? Are they kind of aligning themselves with what I guess we'd call with the lack of a better word and for entertainment purposes only, are they aligning themselves with like some sort of satanic type sect? It sure feels like their actions are all leading that way. Their actions are very unchristlike from my understanding. Again, I did not grow up in the religion, so but they seem far from the messages of helping thy neighbor and to the least of these, the tenets that most people hear about when they hear about Christianity. Are they actively like I think it's a game to them. That's what I see, like the Monopoly Man and the water. It's like a game to them. How far can they push, or how far can he? I don't think this is everybody in the administration, but how far can he push Christians until they turn against him? And I think the answer is he could push them as far as he wants. Yeah. It's the it's the devil card. I mean, that seems like a strong statement to say, they're being satanic or whatever, because I don't really believe in Satan, but or the devil. But it feels like that's what they're about. They're about just mucking up the whole information highway so that people don't know what's true, people don't know what's not true. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised in 3 weeks if we see people saying there is no such picture. right? That picture didn't exist, even though, or he didn't tweet it out. I mean, they just lie about things that are obviously easily disprovable. And we get temperance, moderation. So that's in the environment around. That's what people want. People want moderation. That's where they're misreading this thing. How we get the world card again, the end of a very big cycle. We get the Queen of Pentacles. People want nurturing stuff, particularly around money at this point in time. That's in the environment around. Yeah, the Four of Cups is basically at the center of the reading is saying that the felon and the cronies around him just don't give a shit. This don't. Excuse me spelling a profanity, but that's the best way to put it. They just don't care. They don't care what anybody thinks at this point because they're all thieves. They're all out to deceit and destroy. They will undermine Christian beliefs because they know that the Christian beliefs, at least on the micro level, will morph into his beliefs. It's like, somebody said to me maybe 2 years ago, somewhere around that's like if you go to a church in Oklahoma, it's basically the Church of Trump. That's what it's become. If you don't believe that, then you don't belong to the church. So it's a reflection of their own insecurities, the Eight of Swords. Of course, Russia's there. The Empress is in the environment around. And we get partnerships forming. So this toxicity is intentional because they want to see how far they can get away with things so they can see how far they can push the boundaries of the law because honestly, they just don't care. And they're looking to form new partnerships and basically change Christianity as we know it in the United States. They're doing this because they know that that in themselves are evil. That's the word that I wanted to say, so I'll just say it. They know that they're evil. And so they don't care. And this is the end of the cycle. This is the end of the cycle is the cycle in which one could rely on the leader of the United States as not out for vendettas. That cycle's over. But in the environment around, what people want are stability and they want moderation. But what they're getting is these weird ties to Russia and they're getting deceit and deception. I mean, how often do we pull the Seven of Swords when it's associated with the felon? I mean, it's insane. So a little bit of this is he might have done it because he feels a little bit isolated and a little bit alone. And there are things behind the scenes that we can't see. This is definitely a crossroads. The church needs to do something, and I think they will. The Catholic Church, that is, they'll stand up to these things. And I think the new Pope will roundly condemn the felon in many, many ways. And I've said that for a while. So I hope I'm right about that one. But yeah, they're actively trying to pervert the true meaning of Christianity. That's what they're actively trying to do. Because they see it as just another brainwashing technique so that those voters and those people don't abandon these ideas in the future. So it's scary times, but uh, the resistance does win. We've read on it many times. So, and yeah, I'll be back with another video soon. Thank you.